Okay, so we're going to do another type of factoring. It's the same skill, and what we're going to do is try to get this and write it as a multiplication. Now, I want to warn you that the way that we did it earlier, which is called the guess and check method, is very variable, meaning you can be really good at it and take a very short amount of time to factor, or it could take you a whole bunch of time if you suck at it. So it depends on where you are in that spectrum, but that is the one that you want to practice because you can do factoring of polynomials like this really fast, like instantly. This one is a very systematic way of doing it, and it's called factored by grouping. However, it does take a set amount of time almost regardless of what you do because you need to go through the process. So the process is to take the leading coefficient, or the number which is attached to the highest exponent, and then multiply it to the number on the right, or the constant term. Now you can disregard the sign here as well. So you just get 32. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that number instead and find all of its factors. So its factors are going to be 32 and 1, 16 and 2, 8 and 4, 4 and 8. It's going to be the same thing. And if you don't know, the way that you find all its factors is by finding its prime factors. And what I'm basically doing is taking all of these numbers and grouping them so that you can get different groups of factors. So for example, this is 4. Well, that's 8. That gives you this one. So if I had a group of 2, this would be 4. And then that one would be 8, which is the same thing, just reversed. Another one I could have is a group of 4, which is 2, 4, 8, 16, and then just 2. So this is going to be all the different factors that we have. And the goal here is to, again, add or subtract to get middle term. It doesn't matter if the middle term is 1, 0, you still add them together to get the middle term. So is everyone okay with these numbers, that 8 minus 4 is 4? And what you do with those numbers is you split the 4p into 8p minus 4p. So step 3 is to write it as 4p squared is going to be 8p minus 4p minus 8. And so you can see that this part right here is the same as that part over there. And we showed it because 8 minus 4 is 4. Now you're going to go back to what we did previously and factor it by grouping. And so what I mean by that is 4p squared plus 8p minus 4p minus 8 is going to be grouped like this. And factor out the GCF from both. So 4 and p on the first one. What times 4p gives you 4p squared? That's p. And what times 4p gives you plus 8p? It's plus 2. Similarly here, factor out a 4, and you get p plus 2. Now remember, the goal of factoring by grouping is to find a common term. They do have something in common, both of them. So I can pull that out as p plus 2, and whatever is left over gets written inside the other parentheses. Now, when you're doing it this way, you have to check to make sure that the factors are factored completely, because here, when we actually went through all the steps, we didn't factor out the GCF like previously, right? There's a GCF of 4 here. So we need to check, and we can see here that there's actually a 4 that needs to be pulled out. Now, if you did it from the very beginning, that's also fine. And then, just like the last example that we did in the previous video, you just take the factors. You try to find the factors of this one part instead of the whole thing, and then write the 4 at the front. Okay. So let's do this one. This is the same problem as the guess and check part. And this one was the horrible one, right? It has a lot of possibilities. I think you'll find that this one is actually a lot easier doing factoring by grouping. So take the two terms, the leading term and then the constant term, and multiply them together to get 60. And then find all its factors. So 60 and 1, 32, 15, 4, 12 and 5, 10 and 6. I think that's it. 2, 4, 3, yeah. Okay, so those are all the different factors. Step 2 is, again, take those factors, either add them or subtract them to get 19. And I think these numbers are fairly nice that you can see 15 and 4 adds up to give you the 19. So 15 plus 4 is the 19. And then step 3 was to take the original polynomial and split the 19n as 15n plus 4n plus 12. So again, I'll highlight that this part is that part. Factor by grouping. The first two parts have a 5 and an n in common. And to get to the first term, I need an n. To get to the second term, I need a plus 3. The second two parts have a 4 in common, and then I get an n plus 3. So notice again, they have an n plus 3 in common, so I can pull that out. And whatever is left over gets written in the second part. So in this case, if you're really good, you can factor this in probably 5 seconds. In this case, even if you're good, it can take a couple of seconds to figure out, if not longer. But this process is pretty systematic and straightforward and fairly easy to do. But again, I do recommend that you understand how to do guess and check, because when you're doing 30 of these problems, you will need to be proficient at them and be a lot faster than this is going to allow